In the wake of the very deliberate and considered strategy to immobilize the French rail network this morning through a series of arson attacks across the country, it is inevitable that this is some foreign hostile state that is looking to try and disrupt and embarrass the French in the run-up to today's opening ceremony. In terms of the planning for this particular games, there should have been consideration for infrastructure. And infrastructure covers a wide variety of aspects, whether it be telecommunications, such as cell phone networks, transportation links, hubs, airports, and various other locations where we know it's low-hanging fruit for terrorist or foreign state actors to potentially disrupt, because it's virtually impossible that even with a £350 million budget that has been applied by the French to securing this Olympics, it is very, very difficult to try and keep the entire country safe. However, what we've seen today is no doubt a deliberate act, something which has been done with very careful consideration, as it is immobilized certainly some of the most key routes moving to and fro Paris and from across the country. But added to which, there has also been this arrest yesterday in southwest France of a 18-year-old who had a plot from a jihadist perspective against the Olympic Games. And this will not be the first. There will be inevitably many more that will be uncovered, and hopefully in sufficient time. Of foreign state actors who potentially could be lined up as the suspects for this attack and for others, we know that Iran and many of its affiliated terrorist organizations have been very vocal about their threats against the Israel team, but also against Israeli tourists and spectators who are intending to come and enjoy the games. But in terms of infrastructure, this is more likely to be attributed to Russia. There is one individual that has already been arrested that is associated to FSB, the domestic intelligence agency for Russia, that is seen to be allegedly connected to these series of arson attacks. But what will be most interesting is in the subsequent investigations will be where exactly these arson attacks took place. And what I mean by that is not the location, but whereabouts in those locations. How were they deemed to be the most effective and efficient in achieving their aim? And also looking at the component parts that were used in these arson attacks. Were they different types of liquids? Were they different types of components? Were they sophisticated, or were they fairly basic? Any good tradecraft by a foreign state actor will try and mask that attack by whatever means possible to look as inert and less associated as a considered attack as possible. But we can only draw the conclusion that all these attacks taking place this morning, this was very deliberate. The objective, if you like, for carrying out these arson attacks is really more about embarrassment and immobilization. I don't believe, and again, until such further information comes to light, there was a targeting to human life. It was more about disruption, which is, again, why it draws more towards a foreign state actor than it does necessarily a terrorist group. One of the things that one always has to be very cautious in one's security planning is that attacks like these arson attacks this morning could be used as a diversionary tactic to try and thin the security contingent in terms of providing protection. And those that are operating within central Paris and around, obviously, many of the event spaces will need to be very cautious that they are not drawn away from their primary duties to deal with a situation which ultimately may be with intention to then open up a vulnerability at the key target that they may have been originally intending. As will happen in any type of considered attack, whether it be a state actor or whether it be a terrorist group, all the eyes across the world from security organizations will be looking at it intrinsically to see whether these types of attacks or that particular type of attack could be implemented in their own nation. Now, we have 40 countries which have sent their own security and police forces along to the games to protect their own contingents. However, they will be meeting with the French authorities, no doubt this morning, to glean as much information as they possibly can. And inevitably, there will not be the intrinsic detail of exactly what happened, and many of the points that I've mentioned earlier will be released to the general public, because one always needs to try and keep ahead of the game that the terrorists or the state actors don't know that you know as much as you do. There's always considerations when attacks like this take place that maybe it was kids, it was just malintents, and it wasn't necessarily a considered action. But you have to look at the mosaic of the situation and the fact that these were all coordinated across the country today. And when you have a mature infrastructure and railway network, as they have in France, they will have the contingencies to deal with those minor infractions by individuals just causing vandalism or sabotage for whatever reasons. But when you have something as considered and as wide scale as this, then inevitably the authorities are going to want to look at the component parts, any commonalities between these attacks, as was mentioned, and ensure that whatever is done, that it is not drawing also our friendly forces or France's friendly forces into a potentially greater risk.
If you know who was behind these attacks?
No, I don't know. I don't know. There's an inquiry running at the moment. So the police force are looking after, of course, the people who have committed this assault against the French network. So it's ongoing. I have no information, no specific information on that.
We came to here and then we were waiting on our train, and we saw at the billboards that there is a delay on 30 minutes. Now it's 14 minutes, so it's getting longer and longer.
And when you read the news and saw that it was due to these vandalism attacks, what did you think of that?
I was in first a little bit scared to come here, but we already booked it, so we thought, yeah, if something happens, there are enough police people, so it will be okay, we thought. But yeah, it was a little bit scary.
Non, c'est juste pénible en fait. Ça arrive un peu en France quand même, assez souvent. Donc c'est dommage pour aujourd'hui parce que c'est les JO en fait.